Hello Goober, welcome back. As with my other map guide videos, I wanted to make a Dust video that gives you all the info you need to play Dust like a level 10. While being an incredibly legendary and old map, there's still a lot to know about how to play Dust. So get some popcorn and get comfy because we do have a lot to talk about. But before we dive in, thank you to the sponsor of this video, SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a trusted automated CS2 trading site. It's super easy to use. All you have to do is pick something in your inventory, check how much it's worth, and then go get something new from the monkey. What's also super nice is the filters you can use to narrow down your searches. You can either use your skins to trade for new ones or deposit money with their 30% bonus offer. This becomes 35% when you use my code Wilson. Please use it. Using my code, you can also get up to $5 for free. Use my code Wilson, link is in the description. To play Dust well, you have to understand the timings, especially because of how important the spawns are on this map. With the best spawn for long on CT side, you beat the best spawn for long on T side. This means that you can very safely throw a molly or an HE into long doors before you can get peeked by a T through long doors. However, this timing gets a bit sketchy with the second best spawn for long on CT side. If the T's run through mid up short against the best CT spawn for peeking short, they can be up pretty quickly. And this is even more true if the T goes through Sui. However, CTs will very comfortably beat the best T spawn for pushing lower. In terms of pushing mid, T's have the chance to swing the CT's mid before the CT can swing the T's mid. So this timing very heavily favors the T's. When pushing lower, CTs beat the T's to these stairs, allowing them to peek tunnels. You also don't have to worry about getting spotted from top mid because you very easily beat the T's timing through lower. However, you do have to be worried about somebody spotting you from jump spotting Sui. With the best B spawn, a CT can swing T's as they're pushing through B tunnels. Let's rapid fire the T side default. Typically, we'll have two players going towards tunnels. One of them is the lower tunnels player who's going to clear lower. The other is the upper tunnels player who's holding for a B push and lurking B. However, because the CTs don't push B all too often, you can typically go both of these players into lower. Next, we have one player dropping into Sui. This is a great spot to have your opper at the beginning of the round. They're typically the one who's going to throw a door smoke and maybe molly short to prevent a CT being aggressive. Next, we have the long lurk who is lurking towards long and the mid player. It's similar to tunnels where this long lurk doesn't necessarily have to just stand here and hold long the entire round. They can go mid and take space and get up short and do whatever they want. It's a pretty loose default, right? When they go mid, we just have to be aware, hey, the CTs couldn't push through long. With this default, we get info mid from the Sui player, we get tunnels control from the two tunnels players, and then we get middle control with these two players going out mid. These tunnels players push up lower, these mid players get up mid, and then we take short, and then we get into the situation where we can go mid to B or we could go short. Our CT side default is going to be spawns based. These three spawns are going to be fighting long early, with the first two committing out towards long, maybe throwing some util, tucking, and then swinging with the third player's flashes. This third player right here, that middle spawn, they're going to come towards this corner, throw flashes, and then become the rotate player where they can play around CT or they can play AAA. After we take long, one player is going to stick around long and become the long anchor. The second player is going to become the ramp player or the car or game helper, which is this position. This player is just responsible for holding short and blocking it with smokes or mollies. These last two spawns are the mid player and the B player. The B player is going to cross doors and they're responsible for holding B rushes and making sure that they get at least 2 or 3 kills if the T's rush B. This middle player right here, the second closest spawn to B, is often doubling B early for playing anti-rush or looking for picks mid with an op at the beginning of the round. Okay, let's talk map theory, and when we talk about map theory on Dust, we have to start with long. When you have long spawns on T side, you want to go long and take long for two very important reasons. Number one, taking long at the start of the round is typically the easiest time to take long. While the CTs are fighting for it, sure, they have more people than maybe in the mid round, but once the CTs are able to cross into pit right here, or get boosted up onto blue bin right here, or play an angle like this here, then it becomes much more difficult to take long. So if we can take long by force at the beginning of the round, their positioning is incredibly predictable because they can only be at this corner. That's it. All they have in terms of cover is just this corner, which makes it much easier to take long early. The second reason is that long, just as a space, is incredibly powerful because it shrinks the map for the CTs. So you don't even have to rush through long and then rush to A from long. You can just take long and then play the round from there, because that's going to give you advantages in terms of map space and information. So why does the map shrink so much for CTs when the Ts take long at the beginning of the round? Well, on CT side, you essentially need one of two things to hold A. You either need short control and maybe even mid control, or you need long control. For CTs, maintaining long control is significantly easier than maintaining short control. If we look at long in the mid round, Ts have this tiny little choke point they have to push through, and as they push through it, they have over here, they have on top of the blue bin, pit, somebody could be tucked in here. There's a million different angles and so much space for the Ts to worry about. However, when we think about short control on CT side, you can get bullied out of short very easily by very basic pieces of util, right? This molly can push you back, and then another molly like this can push you back even more, and now you can't even play this corner. Because it's such a small space, you can just get kicked out of short super easily by Ts, and if you don't have long, then boom, you don't have anything, and you're super susceptible to getting split on A. Let's say, for example, the Ts took long, but it's still 5v5. There are 5 Ts alive, there are 5 CTs alive. If the Ts took long, then we need at least one CT holding long, right? Either from site or maybe elevator or maybe CT. Somebody needs to be spotting it. But we also want to maintain short control, which you kind of need 2 people to maintain short, which means that if we have 2 short and 1 site, we are forced into a 3A setup, which makes our mid hold weak and our B hold weak. So that setup might force us into just tucking 2 people into B and giving mid, or giving B and going to mid. Now, as CTs, we have to make some awkward, not amazing decisions because we're forcing 3 players to stay on A the entire round. And if you're keyed in, then you would also notice that because we gave long, now we are forced into holding and trying to maintain and fight the part of the map that is significantly harder to hold and maintain. So that's why long control is so important. But what about if we don't have long spawns or we can't take long on T side? Now, this is how the majority of Dust 2 rounds go, right? We don't take long, we don't rush B, we're taking middle. So we smoke doors, we get up cat, let's say we get cat, right? We have full cat space, we have mid space. Now we're going to play this little game with the CTs of, are we going to go mid to B or are we going to go short to A? And this is where we have to consider the rotate player. If we're really obvious in which one of those 2 we're doing, then this CT rotate player is probably going to be there to stop us from doing it. So what I mean is if we don't take short control and the CTs can just leave a player here spotting this, then the rotate player can be here in CT, and there's also a mid player right here. And if we want to go mid to B, then we're facing 2 CTs in mid because we haven't taken short and CTs have info on short. So the chance of CTs being able to hold a short take or hold a mid to B take highly depends on where this rotate player is positioned. So knowing this, what can we conclude? Well, number 1, as T, taking short control is super important in terms of playing around with this player's position. If we can't threaten an A execute from short, then this player can just chill in CT and hold the mid to B push. Number 2, denying info in the mid round or when we're about to choose where we want to go is incredibly important. If we have short control and we can also threaten a mid to B as Ts, then we don't want to be super loud and obvious when we're all on short, right? Because then that CT rotate player can just hold us short. We want to be quiet up until the point where boom, okay, now we're going out short and we're taking it. We don't want to give that rotate player info that allows them to be where they need to be to hold us. So number 3, we can play around with that rotate player's positioning by pressuring one thing and then going to the other, right? It's the simple, just like fake one thing, force the rotate, go to the other thing. We can throw a mid to B smoke, and then I have 3 players up on short and then 1 player lurking long, and I throw that smoke, I throw a flash. I know I'm a CT agent right now, but boom, now I'm pressuring mid. This might force the CT rotate player to come towards mid to B just in case we're actually going out. And then bang, we're going out short and we have a lurk out long and we're going A, and this player's super out of position. One of the biggest discrepancies between how Dust 2 is played in the pro scene versus Pugs comes down to spawns. Dust 2 is the most spawn dependent map in the pool. There are just so many T-spawns and they span so far horizontally that they are just so important to consider. Conversely, the CTs only have 5 spawns and they're not too far away from each other. However, because the T spawns can be so good and vary so much, that kind of increases the importance of these CT spawns. For example, like we saw before, this best long spawn for CTs beats the best T spawn for long. Because of this, in Pugs, it's standard to play the map based off of spawns rather than playing it by positions. However, if you watch the pros, they don't do this. They prefer the consistency of people playing the same positions over and over, round by round, as opposed to the benefit of playing these spawns. And sometimes they do use the spawns, don't get me wrong, but you'll typically see the same person anchoring long, the same person playing towards ramp, the same person playing B every round. And they offset the downside of not using spawns every round with good utility and good team play. That, however, takes good coordination and good teamwork, which is often lacking in Pugs. So in Pug play, it's more simple and more effective to play the map off of spawns. This video will operate under that lens of spawn-based Pug play rather than positional-based pro play for playing Dust 2. My supervisor, Dingus here, he's reminded me to ask you to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you're enjoying it. Drop a comment as well. He says thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about how to take long on the CT side. For a simple long take, we can break it down into spawns. Now, by default, these 3 players, these 3 spawns are going to be fighting for long, and each one has a pretty simple role. This first spawn, the best spawn for long, is typically doing one of 2 things on buy rounds. Either they're going to throw a piece of util into long doors like that, a molly or an HE, or they're going to be trying to cross into pit like this. You can throw mollies into long doors like this as you run across. It's okay. The problem is because you're facing this way as you cross, you're going to be eating any flashes the T's throw. You're just hoping that you can get to pit safely. But crossing to pit early is pretty risky, so for the most part, you should just be dumping in a piece of utility, tucking, and playing anti-flash so you're not eating these flashbangs from the T's. This second player is going to follow the first player towards long, play anti-flash here, and then they can either throw a molly towards blue bin like that, which is going to flush out any T's that are crossing, or they can shift walk throw an HE like this, which is going to pop as the T's are crossing, or even lower, which is going to pop at just outside of long doors. With this second spawn, it is risky to peek long doors and throw a piece of utility because the best spawn for T side is going to beat your timing. So if the T's could have an op, you could just get destroyed, or if a T is just nice with the AK shot, you could get destroyed. So typically you want to avoid peeking long doors. On anti-ecos, it could be worth just double nading because the T's are likely just going to have maybe a deagle, and it is a tough shot to hit. You can peek, it just carries a little bit of risk. After we throw whatever initial util we want to throw, both of these players are tucking and playing anti-flash to the early T flashes, and then that third player, the support player, is going to flash for these 2 players to swing while their util is still up. Let's consider a doors molly, a blue molly. That way the T's are forced into everything. These 2 CTs swing with flashes from the support player, and boom, all the T's are in the open, and hopefully they're all blind. This third player, the support player, is typically coming to this corner, and they can get dropped flashes from their teammates, but they should have at least 2 flashes. The first flash you want to throw, this is like kind of the default long flash, is just above this medical sign. You're just going to left click at the top of the sign, bang, that pops right at the corner and is a nice little pop flash that's going to blind any T's looking at the corner. The second flash you want to throw is a deeper flash. If you only throw 2 of these, then anybody towards blue bin out here, they're not going to get blinded by this, and if your CTs are swinging and crossing, then they might just die to somebody standing there. So you can throw a flash like this, just aim at the top right of that. There's multiple ways. Aim at the corner of this building, left click jump throw. You can aim at the third one up here, right? This doesn't matter what lineup you use. The point is you want to get a flashbang out in this direction, so then any T's holding this right here, they're going to get blinded by one of these flashbangs. Now, one smoke that the pros use a ton that doesn't get used in Pugs very much is a long doors smoke. Typically, it'll be the third player who throws this. You can come out of spawn, stand right here, and then you're going to aim at the bottom of this electric bit where it meets that roof. Left click jump throw. You can also come into this corner. This is another way to throw it. I believe this one's just slightly faster. Stand here and aim at the bottom of this smudge right here, and left click jump through as well. Both of these are going to land indoors Boom, boom, boom. The problem is that it does still take a little while for the smoke to land, so your CTs can't swing doors until the smoke lands. However, with this smoke, we don't have to peek until it lands, right? This first player, if we throw the smoke, the first player can throw a blue molly, and then they can tuck, wait till the smoke lands, and then bang, they're double swinging. Or the first player can HE doors, the second player can throw the blue molly, they're tucking, playing anti, wait, the smoke plumes, and then bang, we're swinging with the support player's flashes. The smoke also makes it easier for you to take long if you're only playing long with 2 players. If a third player wants to go short early, then throwing the smoke then allows you to take long, like a little bit delayed, right? You're not insta swinging too long because you have to pause and throw the smoke. But this first player, molly's blue, you throw that smoke, you come up here, you can bounce flashes against the sign for a little pop flash to peek long, boom. Or you can just throw them over the building like this, and then bang, you guys are 2-man taking long with door smoked and blue mollied. So now that we took long, we want to maintain long, right? There's no point in all of us coming here, throwing out all of our util, and then rotating off when there's no need to rotate off. We want to maintain the space like we talked about in the map theory bit, which means that you can become a long anchor. One of these 2 players that are fighting long early typically then becomes the long anchor. And there's many different ways you can play long as a long anchor, and there's some pros and cons with each of them. Pit will be the most common and often the best spot to play. Pit allows you to timeout peaks, right? You can sit here, boom, peak, sit here, boom, peak. You're also somewhat immune to these types of flashes that pop through. And even if you get blinded by a flash, bang, you instantly have cover. So it's, you know, inherently less dangerous than a more in the open angle. However, it is somewhat the most expected angle for you to play. So it's not like you're not going to get cleared. There is one off angle you can play in pit by sitting just about right here. This angle is really nice because as T's are scaling up and they're worried about corner, then boom, you're right here on this weird little off angle. So as I mentioned before with pit, I would not just stand here and hold this, right? You might just get owned because they're expecting you to play pit. Instead of doing that, timeout peaks, right? Boom, come back. Boom, come back, right? Don't just sit on the angle. The disadvantageous part about playing pit is that you are further away from long doors, which means that you can't clear long doors when you feel like there's going to be a lurk. And if you want to run over towards A site, you have to hold long and see if there's a flanker, see if somebody's lurking, come help A, and then you have to constantly worry about it. You can't just instantly clear it because you were playing close before. However, when you're playing close, like how we talked about, the advantage of pit is that it's much better against flashes because you have cover. When you play close like this, if somebody flashes through the doors right here, boom, you're donezo. You're just gonna die, right? You're gonna get cleared. Playing close like this is better if you're expecting just one person to late lurk through long doors, or if the T's have been going like mid to B a ton, because then it gives you the option to fast flank based off of, you know, whatever info the T's are throwing. If they throw a mid to B smoke, then boom, you can pop through and make the judgment call that nobody's holding you long. Playing around the corner right here isn't the worst place to play in the mid round. The downside is like you're giving like the kind of obvious fight that T's are always going to be peeking and ready for right here. Boom, like they're never not going to peek it, right? However, the benefit of it is that you're much quicker to help your A player. If you have your other player who's here holding short, and then boom, the T's are rushing out short and they need help, you're right here, you can quickly, very quickly just flash behind them, come out here and help them fight. Whereas if you're in pit, then you can still try to throw a flash, right? You're not going to be as deep, but you have to cross all the way this way. You're just further away from helping. So where you play can be kind of determined by how the T's are playing. I would default towards playing pit. It's just overall the best spot to be in for most situations, but play around with it and switch it up. A couple other spots to mention is getting boosted on this blue crate. This is really effective if you think that one T is going to walk out, no util, and just lurk, right? You're almost guaranteed that kill. Another pretty decent spot is playing around here. You're going to dodge any flashes that go through the doors, but there are flashes that can pop above here. It's inherently risky because you're just sitting in a corner, right? You're very tradable. So again, pretty decent spot if you're expecting just one T to walk out, but if the T's are popping long in the mid round, then not amazing. You're very tradable. One other thing to mention that like I honestly have gotten into the habit of, that's actually a terrible habit, is like once you take long and somebody crosses to pit, right, you're chilling and you want to help them out before you rotate, you smoke doors, then you go over here, and then now you're holding short. Really not worth it. Having a smoke down in doors is pretty good. It makes it harder to lurk out or to pop out, but being able to smoke short from right here here is significantly more important in the mid round than having to smoke down on long doors. So I would honestly just not smoke long for your teammate before you rotate. If you're anchoring, like you cross here to pit, then you can just jiggle out, throw a smoke like this if you want to. But I think having a smoke down and long doors in the mid round is really kind of low priority compared to having one down on short. Okay, so we took long. One of your teammates crosses over to pit. Now they're going to anchor long. You were the second player fighting with them, but nobody came out, so you're chilling, so you're going to rotate off, and now you're responsible for short, right? Because your rotate player, the guy here supporting you, they're running over towards CT. So immediately you have a decision to make. Number one, you could come over here, jump up on the boxes, and then come play short, and even push up short if you'd like, or you can play it more passive and just play it from ramp. How aggressive do you want to be short right after you guys take long? And people really fall into the habit of just immediately aggroing short. If you're rotate player, go CT, you're alone, you jump up on these boxes and you push up short, you are immediately just giving a really good advantage to the T's. You are saying, hey, I'm here alone, come trade me, right? They're not long, so they're probably going to be taking mid, and you're probably going to be taking like a 1v2, 1v3 here on short if you want to fight. So I would say one big factor here is the information you get from your mid player, right? If your mid player is here and they don't see anybody mid the entire time, and you're rotating over and you say, have you seen anybody mid? And they say, no, they're not out mid. Then sure, you can get a little cheeky, little aggressive short. But if they get smoked off right at the beginning of the round, which is typically what's going to be happening, then pushing short or getting aggressive short right after that long take, your timing sucks, right? The T's could already be up short by that time. So it's an unnecessary risk, overly aggressive, right? So when that happens, the most you want to do, and this is still like iffy, is jump up on the boxes and then come to this corner. Getting on this corner is super strong because if you jiggle it with a smoke out, you spot somebody, you can smoke, drop, and then boom, you got info, and now the T's are blocked short. If they're rushing through, you have time for your rotate player to come back, and now you guys can double hold short together. That's the strength of this position, is getting this info earlier, whereas if you play ramp, you don't get the info up until the point that they actually push short. So I would say by default, go towards ramp. Similar to pit on long, this is just like the safe, good option, especially if you have a smoke and a molly, because then you can block the T's if they're pushing short. However, if you want to get aggressive short, then you can totally do that, especially if you have good info from your mid player who says like their timing isn't great, they can't be out mid yet. Then you can stray away from the default, and instead of your rotate player going CT, they can come short with you. Now you're in a much better position to actually hold short or fight it or get kills because you're playing two short instead of just one. So some setups you can do is having one player right here, they're jiggling, they're spotting. This is typically great if you're AWPing, you just hold this line, and then have another player right here who's rifling and they're playing anti-flash, staring into the wall. That way this player will take first contact, right? Boom, they shoot, and then this player reacts and then shoots as well. If this player, bang, the T's flash them, right, then they can tuck and play safe. This player doesn't get blinded because they're staring into a freaking wall, and then they turn and they fight too. Another one you can run is having your AWPer be right here, right, hold this line, and then your rifler crouched against this wall right here, holding Xbox like this. Now, one thing that can be really effective if you're doubled short is that if you've smoked this and you're expecting the T's to take short and fight you guys once the smoke fades, wait for like right before that smoke fades. You can throw a molly just aiming like at the bottom left of this window, run through it, and then you can left and right click a flash up here, and then boom. Now the T's are mollied out of this cubby, the flash pops in a nice little pop flashy way right here. Bang. That way, this player who's right here, they can creep up as the smoke is fading. You throw that util, boom, they're swinging, and they can just farm the T's who are chilling in this area. You can throw a similar flash from back here if you just aim at the top of the building and left click throw just to the left of it. This one is another nice little pop flash that's going to blind T's who are holding for that push. Okay, so all of that is talking about the mid round, right? We took long early, and now we're coming back to short, and maybe we're re-aggroing short or just playing short in the mid round. Let's talk about how to be aggressive short early, right? We're not necessarily fighting long, instead we're fighting for mid, and we're going to go short off rip right out of spawn. If you want to go short right out of spawn, it's still important that you do something to pressure long. If you don't throw a single piece of util long after throwing double mollies for 5 rounds in a row, auto, then if the T's have 2 ears on them or even 1 ear, then they'll recognize, oh, hey, they're not playing long this round, and maybe they'll just go out long, right? And just take it for free. So when you want to run this kind of setup, somebody should throw a long door smoke, and one player can still go towards long, right? They can molly doors before the smoke lands, or they can molly blue. If the T's actually run out long and they're alone, they should just run away, right? Nobody's supporting them. It's just a 1v5 if the T's run out. But if the T's aren't fighting, then bang, now we have long for the cost of a smoke and a molly, or a smoke and whatever piece of util this person throws. That way we could have the best of both worlds, where we take long with just one person, and now we can 2-person go fight for short. The fastest way to get up short is, instead of jumping right here, right, you have to break it up into multiple little jumps. You run around, and then you jump onto this box, and then this one, and then you go up and you get up short that way. There are a couple of plays we can make here on short. The first one is the boost. If somebody calls for a boost short, it's not on this box. Sometimes it is in the mid round, but early, the best boost is at this corner. So one player can stand right here, the other player jumps onto their head, and then bang, they have a nice angle for lower. Something else you can do is to throw a molly into lower and then swing out mid this way. Keep in mind that you can use this wall as cover from lower to peek mid. However, if you have an A1, then the barrel is going to stick out and somebody lower can see it. A4, I don't think it does. Op, it 100% does. So keep in mind, like, if you're out here and you're holding mid, nothing's happening, then you have to peek lower, they should probably know that you're there, so your swing needs to be very purposeful, or you give it a jiggle. Don't pretend like lower has no idea that you're there. One fight that like just kind of sucks for CTs is just taking this fight here towards lower. For one thing, the T's get the benefit of peeking you. For another thing, it's a headshot angle, and the T's most likely have AKs, so it's not amazing. And T's are always going to be pre-aiming this anyways. It's not like they're not going to be holding this, so it's not like a great like open the round, go for this kill type of play. Being aggressive short with the rifle here is okay. It's not like a terrible play, but it's also not the most amazing play, because you're expecting like 3-4 T's to swing top mid, or just 2 and possibly trade you. T's will often be flashing over mid when they go, right, like that, and you might get blinded by one of those. And you're also susceptible to somebody swinging down Sui and peeking you here. So you kind of have 2 different angles to hold while you're right here, and then also lower might know you're here as well. And on top of that, you could just get mollied off of short by a molly like that. It's going to be smaller because of CT molly, but a T molly will flush you out this way. Not the most amazing play. However, with an op, these plays become significantly better. Being aggressive on short with an op can be super effective, because these fights are just really good for an opper, right? They're really long range, and they provide you a lot of fallback points, right? If somebody swings Sui right here, much better fight for an op. If somebody swings top mid right here, bang, much better fight for an op, because I could just get one and then run away in a spot where if I'm rifling and my time to kill is significantly higher, I'm much likelier to be traded. And then we fall back to this spot where this is just a hard on angle. This is really favorable for oppers. Boom, I get another, and I can fall back to right here and then play this, and same thing with the last angle. Boom, I get another and fall back. So being aggressive short, really good for oppers, especially if you have a teammate who gets into lower and is able to hold the lower swing for you from like right here, or from back here, or even from on top of these boxes. That way, when you're taking these long range fights top mid, when you fall back, you don't have to worry about dying to lower. You're just safe, and then you can get away. When you watch the pro scene, for the most part, you'll see the opper play towards car or play right here in the mid round. That's because, again, these are just really good fights for the op to take. If you play this corner, you provide yourself with bang 1, and then bang 2, and then bang number 3 right here. You provide yourself with many, fallback points and angles you can take on the T's who are rushing up short. And if you have long control, which you should have if you're playing a spot like this, then you can fall back to long and play retake from long. Another spot you'll see oppers play a lot is car. Car is pretty good for the exact same reason. Boom, you get one, you fall, bang another, and then bang. And playing ramp can be quite good. This fight for you is decent. The risk is that somebody can jump up here and somebody can peek down here. So if you get double peeked, you're likely to die or get traded. This is a bit better if you're rifling, I would say. This is a great spot to like flash for yourself, or have your teammate long flash for you, and then boom, you're swinging and you're taking these fights. You can also throw good defensive smokes for yourself like this, right? Boom, now you can play around the smoke and use it to reposition towards goose or play behind it. Ramp, if you're opping, decent. I would say not as good or consistent as a spot like this. If you're rifling, I would stick towards ramp. If you're opping, I would typically stick towards game helper, which is what this spot is called. or car. Okay, so we talked about the first player who throws the doors, molly, etc. Then they cross the pit, they're anchoring long. We talked about the short player who is also helping fight long early, and then they come back, they play ramp, or maybe they aggro short. Now let's talk about the rotate player who assisted in this long fight. Oops. Who assisted in this long fight, right? They threw flashes, and now they're going to go back towards CT by default, or they're going to stay double A and hold for a short push. This rotate is, again, somewhat dependent on this mid player's info. By default, if they get smoked off and they have 0 info, I would say come towards mid. If they say a bunch up short, right? They're running up short, then you can stay A and hold for this maybe short rush or just fast short play. When you come towards mid, now you typically want to stay on the left side of these doors. The reason for that is so that you can rotate back towards A, right? If you cross towards this right side, and let's say your other mid player went towards B, and now we're double B, now you have to cross back over this way, which could be dangerous if they have a lurk to go help A. So try to stay on the left side of these doors. One angle that can be really strong for you to hold is this angle. When T's are crossing here, they're not really paying attention to this. Sometimes they'll give this a good peek, but for the most part, they're just going to cross along like this and just swing their crosshair that way. You get a little bit of vision of them, boom, you start shooting, and then you can start wall banging them. The wall bangs through this wall are pretty effective, right? You can do a lot of damage through it, so that can be really good information and really good damage. Now, one thing to keep in mind wherever you are as this rotate player is making the most of your position. If, let's say, you come here towards CT, doors are smoked, and then it seems like, oh, really obvious the T's are going to push short, but you don't feel like you have the timing to like run over and go help, then you and this mid player can just fast flank, right? Either wait for the smoke or push through the smoke and try to fast flank the T's as they're getting up short. There are a lot of angles you can play on this side. You can have somebody boost you right here, which then allows you to get up on top of this box. This gap right here, when the T's throw their mid to B smoke, won't be blocked. As you can see, with the smoke down, even the one that plumes high, I still have a ton of visibility here and can get 2 and then drop and play my life, right? That's super effective. It's also quite good to still have your nade if you're going to play towards CT, so then you can HE the smoke and play defensively. Having your molly can be really good as well, because then if you see the mid to B smoke coming, you can react with a molly towards doors. That way you delay them pushing out, then you can play ahead of it and get out and hold an angle like this or get into this cubby. And you should probably only do this if you have a second mid player here to help you and swing off of you. This isn't great as a just a lone play. If you feel like a bunch of people are coming mid to B, you're just going to get traded. However, that molly can buy you time to then do something else, right? That's the point, so you're not just stuck behind the smoke. One angle that T's will often disregard is just playing right here. This is a cheeky little angle that T's will forget about and forget to clear, right? So when they swing this way, maybe they peek this boost, but they don't hard clear just this cheeky little corner. This also allows you to swing any T's that are playing right here. This is a very common spot for a T to just peek at this wood bit right here, boom, and then they peek window, and if they shoot, then you can react off of that, and boom, now you're trading and now you're killing T's off of that information. In kind of a desperate spot, playing in front of the smoke right here, super effective. The really important thing about this position is positioning. Where are you and why are you there? When you're playing this role, or when you get stuck into this role based off of your spawn, you have to be thinking about what are the T's doing, what info do I have, and where can I be that'll allow me to have the greatest impact on this round. Sometimes that will be CT, right? Sometimes that's going to be playing AAA. Sometimes maybe it could even be playing double long, right? If the T's are popping long a lot and you guys really want to hold long, then just staying long and allowing this ramp player to come back and hold short, and now you're AAA. It could be playing CT and letting your mid player go over towards B and double B and playing mid with a molly and getting ready to delay them from coming out mid to B, right? So your positioning is very important. Don't just default to like running up short after you throw supporting util. That's the biggest mistake I see in Pugs, is they throw theirs flashes and then they immediately come up short and fight short. It makes no sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You have to be making conscious decisions. I'm going here because of this. Let's move on to the mid player. By default, if you have this spawn, it's the second closest to B, then you're going to be playing mid. Now I say mid, but keep in mind, this is, yes, the mid player, but also the second B player as well. This player is typically floating between middle and playing 2B. So at the start of the round, you immediately have a decision to make. do you want to play towards middle early or do you want to go towards B early? Against low buys, anti-ecos, right, there's a much higher chance that the Ts are going to rush B, and in those cases I would say just default to playing 2B. When you go 2B, you want to have one player towards site and typically one player towards car or in the cubby. That way you're not just shoulder to shoulder on site, like begging to get double killed, right? Now you guys actually have a nice little crossfire between the two of you. You can also play towards window early as well if you want to play anti-rush, right? Your site player gets into site, you play window, you get one, and then you fall, and then they fight after you fight. That works as well. But if you're really trying to stop a rush, definitely play towards site and play one towards car. If you're rifling mid, which we'll talk about first rather than AWPing, then there's some really nice utility you can use to pressure Ts. One is a smoke from just back here. You're going to get into this general area right here, aim below where this nub is popping out from, just in the doorway, and then W jump throw. This is a Sui smoke. Boom. This is great for denying info from Ts right here. With that smoke, you can apply even more pressure by throwing that smoke, coming up here, and then mollying top mid. Now we have Sui smoked, we have top mid mollied, and so when the Ts clear mid now, they're gonna have to be much more careful about it because you're giving the CTs time to get up mid and to be holding this spot from a multitude of angles, and so it forces the Ts to throw flashes, to slow down, and to be more obvious about, hey, we're taking mid. And then, because you've conditioned it, right, you throw that a couple rounds, then when you actually want to push mid, you can throw that, and in the T's brain, it's not guaranteed that you're actually pushing mid because the last 2-3 times that you've thrown it, you didn't actually use it. So conditioning that can be quite good. One other thing you can do is stand here and then throw an HE into top mid around 148 with the best spawn for T side. It takes about 7-8 seconds. So they could be here around 148. Typically they pause and they start pre-aiming stuff and slow down. So I would say 148 is a really good timing to throw it. You're also safe from this angle when you're right here, right? If you stand right here, then you can't be peeked from here. They just can't see that low. They can only see the upper bit right here. Once they swing out this way, if you're too wide, then they can see you. So just keep that in mind, right? Another play you can make is if the Ts are throwing a mid door smoke off rip every single round, you can come out here into mid and just block it. So that would look like this, right? I'm coming towards mid, I see the door smoke. I think as I threw it, I can't actually block it, but that's what it would look like. You just put your body in front of it, boom, you block it, and then you'd be given a gap at the top of this smoke that you can play around. So typically that's what you want to be doing when you're playing mid early round. You don't want to be taking these fights with a rifle. They're just not great. Unless the Ts are like holding W down Sui, and when you cross, you spot them doing that, then you reswing it. Otherwise, even if they're scouting, it's just super advantageous for them. The same is somewhat true with these fights. These aren't amazing for you. It's just such an on angle, and if the Ts swing this without smoking doors, then they probably should just kill you. Your job is not to hold mid, right? You don't have to fight through doors and 1v5 Ts running out mid. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to control this space from the doors this way. This is the choke point. If you can get picks into mid while you're rifling, great. That's awesome. But that's a bonus. It's aggressive. Your job is to hold mid or get towards double B and hold B. When you're having to hold mid, there's not a lot of cover for you to play, right? You can play around here and spot if they come outdoors like this. You can play towards these boxes or up here, but those aren't very committal. So if you're alone in the mid round, I would avoid just playing here alone. If the Ts come mid to B, you could be just giving them a 1v4 and you don't have any cover, and this is a tricky fight to like get a multi-kill in. But if your rotate player is here in mid with you, then it's worth staying around here and fighting because now you have a teammate to help you fight. So try not to be here just fully alone. It is pretty spooky. You can throw util to like block a little bit from this left side. You can throw a not amazing smoke like that. You can also throw a molly the same way, right? Just against the door. And keep in mind, if they are outdoors, like this is a really easy spot to just flash behind and then swing. If anybody's out right here or coming to swing you, then you can flash and counter swing them. That's a good play. So when your rotate player isn't helping you mid, let's say they go 3A, right? You're just alone here. You want to be playing with your B player. You and your B player need to be doing stuff together, because if you play here solo and your B player plays B solo, then wherever the Ts go, you're kind of giving up like a 1v5, a 1v4, right? It's just not great odds. Instead, you want to be doubled up so then you can counter one side of the pinch, right? If we double double up mid and the T's are going to split B, then we just focus on fighting mid and have a better chance of fighting mid because we're doubled up. If we go double B, which will be the safer option, I would say, or just more common option than going double mid and giving B, then we can fight the B side of the split 2vx, right? And then go focus on mid. Don't isolate yourself in the mid to late round when you're playing mid with a rifle. When we were talking about the A positions, the A roles, we talked about the info from the mid player. When you're playing mid, you're gonna get, for the most part, significantly more information than the rest of your team will. So it's important that you're yapping and that you're telling your team exactly what you're hearing. If they molly cat from lower, you need to say that. If you're smoked off mid doors at the beginning of the round, you need to say that. If they could be up cat, you should say that, right? You just need to be very clear about what's going on mid. What do you know? That way your team can make better decisions. So when you're rifling mid, you're kind of limited at the beginning of the round of what you can do, right? Either you could be ultra aggressive and push up mid or push lower, but if you're trying to play in mid, it's mostly util and getting information, and then you really shine in the mid round where the T's actually have to push. However, if you can op mid, this is where you can do a lot at the beginning of the round. When we talk about opping mid, the thing we have to start with is, of course, fighting Sui. One incredibly helpful thing that your B player can do for you is that when they cross, they look Sui and then they say left side or right side or middle or boosted. They tell you where the player is in Sui or if there's nobody there. That way, when you peek, you have a good idea of where to pre-aim, right? They say right side, and then you aim at the boxes. They say left, then you aim right here. They say boosted, then you probably aim up here. When you're peeking Sui, you also have to consider at what depth are you peeking at. If you're peeking down here, it's a little disadvantageous because this is where they're likely going to be holding if they're trying to spot somebody crossing. So you'll mostly see oppers peek from up here. That way, when you peek, they're kind of forced into flicking upwards because instead of their shot being here, boom, now it's up here. It's a small difference, but it could make a difference. A slightly safer, less risky, but also less likely to get you a kill play you can make is getting up close to doors, crouching, and holding for the jump spot right here. If a T is behind the boxes, and they're jump spotting to spot mid, then you can pick them as they're jumping. It's not like the easiest shot you can hit, but it could just be a free kill and it doesn't carry much risk because you can't really get peeked here unless they're boosted. Now, don't always default to taking this peek Sui, because if the T's are on like a light buy or you know they can't have an op, then is it really worth you taking this fight? Maybe you're just giving somebody scouting Sui a chance to create a 5v4 situation against you guys. If I think somebody's scouting Sui, I'm just not taking the fight. I don't even want, a part of it. I'll hold this, which forces them to swing, but I won't take the Sui fight because it's just not worth it going for that pick. One little cheeky thing you can do to possibly make this fight easier for you is to throw an HE against that wall and then peek behind the debris, the particles that the HE makes. Speaking of HEs, I would almost always go for an HE over a smoke if you only have $300 to spend if you're opping middle. And the reason for that is because if you want to HE the mid doors smoke, then now you have an HE to do it, right? When you HE the smoke, hopefully I get one that plumes up. Okay, pretend that one plumed up, right? I can HE it like this, and then bang, now I have visibility. That allows me to go for free little pick plays at around 145 in that range where we talked about the T's could be running out middle. When you want to peek Sui and you don't feel great about your crosshair placement, there's a little guide you can use on these doors. If you're peeking from this middle range right here, then you can aim for the line that's just above where the handle is, and then bang, the cross is right there. And if you're peeking from the upper bit, then you can aim for the one above that, and then boom, your cross is right there. I don't typically like aim at this for your crosshair placement, but I think for this it is quite a neat little useful thing. If the T's aren't smoking doors, then you should pretty much always go for this fight if you're opping. This is just such an advantageous fight for you. Just keep in mind that there is a timer on this fight, right? If you're double scoped right here, then after a certain amount of time, the T's can peek you down here. With that, keep in mind that even if they're running, it's possible that you won't hear them if you're all the way against this back wall. If you're up here, then you will, but not all the way against the wall. So So don't be surprised if you don't hear them and they're there very quickly and then they kill you from the bottom of the doors. We talked about how when you're rifling middle, the early round doesn't provide you with a ton of opportunities for picks because it's just such long range angles that you're likely going to be giving up a duel against an op or like a 1v3 if they're swinging out mid, etc, etc. But in the mid round, having a rifle is significantly better for playing middle. The inverse is true for opping. At the beginning of the round, right, there are plenty of picks you can go for and it's really strong to be opping mid, but later into the round, it is not a very good position to be in with your op if you're having to sit here and hold this. If we just pause for a moment and consider this angle, we have somebody who can swing down here, somebody who can swing behind Xbox, somebody who could be on the like little jump up slab on Xbox, somebody who could be on top of Xbox, somebody who could be on cat, somebody who could be on top of the cat railing thing, whatever you want to call that, the ledge. You could be swung on left, right, left, right. There's so many different places you could be swung on if you're opping this angle. Even if you close it off like this is still really spooky. It's not a great place to be. And if the T's are smoking doors early, then you have zero info on where the T's are behind the smoke. So when the smoke fades, boom, now you're in this horrifying situation as an opper, right? It's just spooky. It's not great. You would much rather be in a spot where like right here, you're just holding short. There's one place they can be. There's essentially one or maybe two angles if they swing on top of this. Much less spooky and a much better spot for you to be in. So I would say after the beginning of the round, try to get towards A if you can and have somebody kind of swap your spot. If you're having to stay towards mid, lean over towards B, right? Get over here towards window and make sure that your B player is covering tunnels for you. And that way, this is a much better angle, much more comfortable than one like this. The other risk is that if you play close like this, you can just get run down, especially if the T's have decent flashes, they smoke mid to B. You're maybe going to get one, really hard to get a multi-kill from here. The last thing to think about as a mid player is reacting to a B rush, right? If you don't double B early, but you see like a door smoke coming or your B player just says, oh, hey, they're rushing B, then you essentially have two quick options you can make. Number one, you can flash behind them like this, right? Just flash through a window. So then when they're fighting here or right here or right here or right here, then they have some support from you, or immediately get up to door and hold the swing right here. You can kind of do both. Like the second they say there's a rush, you can throw a flash and then come up and then hold through door. If the T's wait until the door smokes land, then you have time to get towards window. Typically T's are going to be running out tons before this door smoke lands. If they throw the super fast rush smoke, then you have a little bit of warning because it's going to make a bouncing sound. And if that's the case, you should just flash and then come towards window. Otherwise, look for the fights through door. For our CT default spots, the last one we have to talk about is the B player. Before we even get to B site, we have to consider this. How are we going to cross past this sight line? Now, it's often good enough to just jump across or just run across, but if the other team has a particularly good opper or scouter who seems to be tagging you every single round, then there are some different options you can do to prevent that from happening. Firstly is throwing a cross smoke. You can just bounce the smoke off of this wall and then boom, now you're crossing and you're completely hidden from that opper or scouter. The other thing you can do is to throw an HE. Out of spawn, when you get out here, you can just bounce an HE against this wall, wait for it to pop, and then jump across like that, and that'll obscure the scouter or opper's vision. The last thing you can do is run up this way, cross right here, and then run back this way. That way, you're not within their vision if they're playing towards the back. The only time they can see you right here is if they're boosted at the back of Sui. I'll say it again because it's important. When you're this B player and you're crossing and your mid player is opping and maybe wanting to peek Sui, if you see somebody Sui, or if you don't see anybody, you need to tell them that information. So if you see somebody right side, just quickly say right side, right? And then they can peek it with better crosshair placement and better info. Now, once you're crossing towards B, any util you want to throw into doors, you can just throw through these B doors. You don't have to go out, get into sight, and then throw it because that's going to screw up your timing. So if you're wanting to play anti-rush, you come up, you immediately throw your molly, maybe you play anti-flash a little bit, and then you can swing in front of this molly. The reason why that play is so good is because when T's are rushing B, they're going to run up, they're going to smoke this molly, and then bang, you're right here, right? And you can hear their footsteps, and then you can just spam through the smoke and do a ton of damage and kind of block them from pushing through it because it's super scary, right? Somebody's just right behind the smoke spamming. So by default, just molly through the doors. If you don't really think they're going to rush, then you can just go towards sight after this molly and then play around this pillar. And if they smoke it and they rush, then that's one thing. If not, then you just smoke after the smolly's gone and you are chilling. When you do end up going towards a site on a rush and you're playing around this pillar, there are a couple things you can do. Once they smoke the molly and the flashes start to fade, you can hold this left side like this. When the T's are running out, they're hard clearing car, and then boom, you're holding this angle right here. Or to throw a defensive smoke that allows you to play behind it, and now you're just trying to stay alive for as long as possible, and you're relying on your mid player to be helping you by throwing flashes behind you. Boom. So you have this defensive smoke down, they flash, and now you can fight this right side, or you can fight this left side. When they don't rush, you want to smoke tons somewhat early. The reason for this is because if a T comes into tunnels, and they cross and they peek this, if you don't smoke tunnels, then they know nobody's on this left side. You can't be on plat or behind plat. You can't be on this left side, this angle, tucked here, right? That's a huge amount of information for the T's, and that lets them, you know, just pop B or even just walk out B with that info. You want to smoke tons, even if they're not pushing, because you want to deny that info and add ambiguity to where you're positioned. The other thing to think about with this smoke too is that just jumping up here is a big risk, because if an AWPer goes for a pick B, they're going to be holding this angle, this jump, and this is a very easy kill for an AWPer to get. So you're kind of stuck within sight or towards car if you don't smoke tunnels early. If you have a 5.7 or an SMG, you typically want to be playing close. You can silent jump on top of this just by shifting on the car and then jumping at the very end. And then you can play this angle with a 5.7 that's super strong. You can smoke it and then play close right here, or play tucked right here, right? And timeout peaks every once in a while. Don't try to be sight with a 5.7 or a MP9, because these fights are going to be super brutal for you to win. Now, for the most part, when you get attacked on B, it's going to be through a B split. Sometimes people execute B from tons. Typically it's a pop rather than an execute. Sometimes they just walk out, but majority of the time, if the T's come B, they're going to be splitting B through mid and through tons. And so like how we talked about with the mid player, you and this mid player need to be on a kind of rubber band together, where if your mid player is committed into mid, you want to be leaning towards window, or even out here double mid, where you can hold tons from here and you're also here to help mid immediately. That way you two are able to counter one side of the push. And then you can also play double B and kind of give mid. In your pugs, where your teammates aren't calming all that much, or they're not really trying to play around you too much, then if you guys are fully split, it can be better for you to commit closer to tunnels, so then that way, if they die mid, you're not stuck on site where you're going to get super easily split on. Now, if they come out mid, you can immediately react and push into tunnels and force this 1v1 or 1v2 against whoever's lurking into tons on that split. Okay, to wrap up the CT side, let's just go through a list of AWP plays you can make, because Dust, it's the AWPers map. I need to talk about it. Let's do some AWP plays. So let's first talk about the long pick. When you have this best spawn for A, you can run up long, play anti-flash. You're going to beat all the T's timings to long, right? None of their spawns have a better timing than your first best spawn. And then peek long doors. Where you place your crosshair depends on what you think the T's are going to do. If you think they're going to send it out long or just like rifle, get out quick, then you want to hold it wider. If you're worried about an AWPer peeking you long, then you want to hold tighter. When you do this, it can be good for you to ask your riflers, right, those other 2A spawns, to go play short. Because if you take this spawn and you peek, you get flash, you shoot, you don't kill anybody, it's really hard for you to re-aggro long once the T's are already out. So it's more of a play where bang, you peek, if nobody's here, then great, now you have long for free, we didn't even have to use a single piece of utility, and we have short space because we have 2 riflers up on short. Another play we can make with the AWP is going for the short boost. You do need a teammate to help you out with this one. You're going to get up short, have them stand right here, and if they have a better spawn than you, then you can just jump onto their head from here, from the stairs, or you can just have them crouch and then get boosted right here. That way they're behind the wall, so they're safe, and then bang, you're peeking lower like this, and you can get a kill and then fall back. On short, going for picks mid can be extremely good as well. Either you can molly lower or have a teammate get into lower for you, and then you're going to peek right here, look suey, and then peek top mid. Keep in mind that 148 to 145 timing of when the T's could be out top mid, so don't be standing here holding suey and just fully open to this, right? Look this way, and if they swing out suey, then you have to react to that. If you didn't watch the mid player section, then I would watch that if you're curious about peeks into suey from mid. One I didn't talk about there is the Xbox peek. If you run out mid and then you crouch against this back left side, You have to crouch jump, hold crouch first, and then jump. Then you get this nice little peek into Sui. This one is a little risky, of course, because you're out mid, but it's very unexpected for a Sui player. And if nobody's Sui, then you can just jump over here and hold this line top mid, or just fall back because you're worried about somebody coming lower. Speaking of lower, there are a bunch of picks you can make into lower. The first one is holding this line. This is an angle that T's will often overlook as they're just running this way and crossing, and then bang, you're right there and you get the pick. This is as far as I would go typically into lower. You can totally peek up here if you're really feeling it, but it's quite the risky peek as T's could already be over on this side and right here. And so there's just a big range of where the T's could be when you peek. It's also just super committal. Another peek you can make is if you come out mid and you throw a smoke like this against Xbox, that one bounced super weird. If you throw a smoke like this against Xbox, then you can peek right here and hold lower, bang, you get one, and then you fall and you get behind doors, and now you can just escape for free. One more for peeking the Sui player is just running up mid, going for this peek. Boom. You get the kill and then you fall back and you get out scot-free. This of course could be assisted by a molly top mid, so you can molly top mid and then go for the peek. That way it could buy you a little more time for you to fall back. Lastly, you could just go peek B, right? You could come up here, get out this way, and then go hold tons right here. Holding this line as an opper is quite good. The problem is the T's are always going to have a better timing than you to here. So if the T's opper makes this exact same play and just holds here, you're going to lose it, right? It's just not an easy fight to win. If you don't want to risk like jumping and having this inaccuracy, you could jump up on here and then peek. That way you're not like in the air as you peek this, but it is slower, of course. One just general thing about CT side, and this has to do with spawns, is that when your team has an opper, you need to be flexible about how you use these spawns, right? If your opper has the second spawn, and hopefully your opper is saying like what they want to do, but if they aren't, you still need to make sure you have a plan, right? If your opper has this spawn, you don't want them going out and being the second spawn to fight long. It's just not a good place for an op to be. You either want them supporting you guys and having this third spawn go out and fight long instead of supporting, or you want them to go towards mid or throw the long door smoke and then go short. You need to be flexible. Another example is when your opper has this B spawn. If they have this B spawn, you don't necessarily want them going B against an anti-eco, right? When the T's have tech 9s, you can have them go towards A or go towards mid, right? Or just go towards window and have that second spawn go play onto B or in car. So don't feel like when you're opping, you're forced into doing something you don't want to do. If you have a spawn that tells you to do one thing that you don't want to do, then tell your team, I'm going to do this. Can somebody else do what I'm supposed to do? That makes sense? Okay, so there's the CT side positions. Let's move on to T side and how to take space on Dust 2. When we talk about T side, of course, we have to talk about how to take long. Like how we talked about in the map theory section, if you have good long spawns, which means at least 2 people in this set of spawns, then you should take long. It's that good of a space. Do it. To take long, we need good spawns. And if you look at Dust T spawns, there's actually a 5th spawn right there that's hidden under the concrete right here. These are the long spawns. Now, these 3 are pretty good. These 2 are a bit less good. These spawns aren't good for getting out long, but they're really good for supporting long with flashes. These spawns are not good for either. If you have one of these spawns and your team is lined up to go long, then you can either go really late long, but you're going to be a bit late to support or get out long, or you can go Lurk Lower. If you have one of the good spawns, one of these 5, you need to be going out long. You can't have this best spawn, run up and then pause and throw flashes. You need to go. You need to use your spawn. You're not a support player if you have one of these 5 spawns. You need to go entry and trade and take long. Now, when you have this first spawn, you have a lot of different options in how you can entry out long. Firstly, always jump over this. Don't run around this or else your timing is worse. Beeline it for doors. Now, once you're indoors, this is where you have to start making decisions. Number 1, you can throw smoke like this, and this smoke is going to plume out and get rid of any CT mollies that are thrown deep into doors. That way, boom, you can peek here and fight. This is really good if you're going for a pick long or trying to fight it early, but if you have 2 people behind you coming out, then you stopping right here, not good. Instead, you just want to get outdoors and make space for your team. Now, as this entry, there are 2 really good ways to scale long. Number 1 is scaling towards blue bin. You don't really want to get stuck behind blue bin, or else you could just get mollied out, or you could allow a CT to cross while you're blind, or you get double naded, right? You're just stuck in a corner. Instead, you want to get over here towards this side of the blue bin, and then scale out this way and close space between you and the CT's corner. The second way you can scale, which is quicker but also riskier, is scaling out this way towards pit. Typically, you want to do this if you have a corner smoke down. If you don't have a corner smoke down, then it is quite risky. But if you're going for a really fast play, then that's how you want to do it. One flash you can throw if you're trying to be really aggressive, it's just against the blue bin, bang, and you're swinging out this way with it. You are relying on the fact that the CTs are going to swing late, so you need to have confidence in your teammates with their good long flashes. That way, the CTs are tucked while you're getting out, and then boom, hopefully by the time that the flash is out and your gun is out, that's when the CTs are swinging. You're catching them by surprise because you're out here, bang, and then now you're getting hopefully 2 free kills. When you're the second spawn, typically you just want to follow the first spawn. Either you want to do that or you want to duel through the doors. If your first spawn is being aggressive and really scaling hard, then you should probably follow them. But if you're not quite sure what they're doing and you're feeling confident in your mechanics and your aim, then you can take those duels through doors. Otherwise, just follow your entry. Now let's talk about supporting the long take. Typically, it'll be when you have one of these spawns and then your teammates have the good long spawns, right? So you have one of these spawns. You can throw a corner smoke by lining up against this wall. Don't feel like you need to make it, pixel perfect. Just get lined up against it. And then you're going to aim for the end of this pipe right here. Left click, jump throw, bounce, and then land right here on corner. And they're forced to peek just right here, which makes it much more difficult for them. So you stop here, you throw that smoke, and then you're going to jump down and get to this corner. The timing for throwing your first flash, you're just going to aim at this top of the wall in between the tree and where the long door starts right here, and you're going to left click jump throw. You want to throw that the second the first player enters these doors. Right as they get into those doors, that's when you want to throw it, because that's the timing for when they're going to be banged right here. That way, if the CTs are peeking early, right, like maybe they peek with an AWP or something, then that flash pops right before your teammate is peeking through the doors. So if you only have 2 flashes, I would just send 2 of those. If you have a third flash, you can flash over like this. This is especially good if you have a corner smoke. That way, you're expecting the CTs to be swinging right here, right behind the smoke. They're going to be wider, so maybe flashes over this way aren't going to be as effective, and the flash is going to pop directly in front of them, but behind your teammates who are swinging in front of it. Once you're out long, you need to know how to smoke cross. You can smoke cross from inside of long doors by aiming at the end of this splotch right here. There's this long one that extends across the entire bar. Just aim at the end of it, left click jump throw. That one's good. It does take a while to land. The one you're going to be throwing the most is just at this corner of the blue crate. I imagine a little box right here next to this building, and I aim in the middle of that imaginary little box and just left click. Both of these are going to land in the middle of CT and not leave any gaps for you to die to when you're crossing. Now, what a lot of people will do is just come here and just run through it at the tooth and think that that's like the perfect lineup. Sometimes it lands well, like this one will. Sometimes it leaves a giant gap that you're going to die to and your team's going to die to, and then you lose the round and then you lose the game and everybody hates you, and it's just so sad. So instead of doing that, throw this, please. It takes a little longer, but it's always going to land correctly unless they body block it. You can also stand around the edge of this shadow and then aim in between the satellite and this thing right here at the wire, and then hold W and left click throw. That is still a lineup, but it's quicker than the lineup that I showed previously with the blue bin and way more consistent than just hucking it at the tooth. When you have long control, you can also throw decent utility from this barrel. You can just aim up from this building all the way up to the wire and left click, and that's a short smoke. You can also molly car by aiming at this little panel here and just jump throwing. Boom, now you have a car molly, and then you also have a smoke down on short, so when you're getting up ramp, you don't have to worry about this angle nearly as much as if it was not smoked. Something to consider is your pacing when you get out long. If you take long and the CTs didn't fight it, or maybe they threw some util and then they ran away, it might not be the best decision to just go book it up long because now you have long. What you can do instead, and it's especially good if you have an AWPer, is to get somebody into pit. If you get your AWPer into pit, then they can look for picks on A, and we can also contact up A by walking along this side. Our AWPer is holding sight for us from right here, so then our A take is less obvious because we're not, running and throwing util. Now we're lurking up, and then we smoke cross, and then we're going loud after we smoke cross, but we're already so close that it's very unexpected. So when you want to get that player into pit, but you're worried about there being an AWPer on site or somebody CT holding you, you can just throw flashes over the building like this. right? These flashes, stupid simple, but they're still gonna blind an opper who's holding this line right here. Once you're getting up long, throwing flashes over this left side for your team who are entering ramp is really good, as well as bouncing mollies towards this palm tree, and then boom, now you're mollying the back of sight so nobody can be crouched tucked behind these boxes. So that's long, right? We take long early with a lot of people, and then we go A, we throw our cross smoke, etc, etc. But what if you're the only one with a good long spawn? If this is the case, then often it's really worth it to just go for a pick. If you can get up here, throw this smoke into the corner, oops, not like that, more into the corner here, and then peek and just look for an early fight. See if you can catch the second CT throw in an HE at the doors, or see if you can dodge their flash and then bang, get a kill and get out. If you can get that pick, play a 5v4 from there, super worth it, even if you don't get that long space. Okay, let's talk about how to play Sui. If you have one of these spawns, it can be quite good for you to drop into Sui, so then you have a good timing to spot the cross or to throw a piece of util mid. You can throw a molly into bottom mid like this, and this will always beat the CT's timing if you use one of those really good spawns for it. That way you deny a mid push or a lower push. If they want to do it, then they just have to take a boatload of damage. Similar to playing mid on CT side, this isn't a great spot for you to get kills with a rifle. Unless the CTs are like eco and they run up mid, then you can react to that and kill these CTs running up mid with your rifle. However, you don't want to be taking fights into mid doors. This is just a bad fight for a rifle, right? You want a scout or you want an op. So when you drop into Sui with a rifle, and it is totally worth still dropping into Sui with a rifle, you either want to throw that molly, right, to deny a lower push. That's especially good on anti-ecos where CTs are more likely to be aggressive, or you just want to be spotting early, right? Jump spot, see what's going on. You can just bounce your head against this roof right here. If you see an opper holding, then you should probably stop jump spotting, because if you jump spot again, they're going to be ready for it and they might pick you. The point of jump spotting is so that you can see if any CTs push lower. From the ground, you don't see that. You can't see if CTs push lower, but when you jump spot, you get a little bit of visibility into it, and that way you can tell your B players, hey, they're pushing lower. After you've jump spotted, you can get into this corner and throw mid door smoke for your team by aiming just above this splotch right here and left clicking. The smoke is going to plume upwards and fully smoke mid doors. Boom. And you can combo this with a molly onto short by aiming just to the left of this wood bit that sticks out and then run throwing your molly. This molly is going to land deep, so then anybody who wants to play this corner is going to get flushed out and be forced to either play right here or just leave. If you want to be super supportive and you think that the CTs are going to be aggressing short, you can throw flashes into short by aiming at this line of the box and holding W and jump throwing. This flash is going to pop right there, and this is especially good against CTs who are boosting, right? If they're boosted right here, they're holding this, boom, they're blind, they have to fall off. Now, after all of this stuff happens in Sui, you have options of what you can do, right? You can get out mid and swing short from right here, or you can come back this way and become a long lurk if you feel like, hey, we're gonna split A in the late round, or just hold for a long push. It really depends on how you want to play it. I would say get out Sui for the most part, right? Take some space. You can tuck back here and hold long from right here if you really feel like they're going to push. Otherwise, you want to be taking space with your team. One very aggressive play you can make is dropping into Sui, bouncing an HE, and then getting out mid with this HE. Let's talk about Sui when you're AWPing. When you're looking to pick somebody on the cross, it's better to be on this right side and then hover your crosshair over here towards the door. This gap in the doors, I think there's a famous, what is it, War Owl video? You cannot humanly react to somebody sprinting across this gap. Your reaction time just isn't fast enough. Nobody's reaction time is fast enough. So you're not going to hit a shot here if you're trying to get somebody crossing. You're going to wallbang them right here. So keep your crosshair here. If they jump, flick upwards. If they don't, then bang, try to time it and hit them through the wall. If you're expecting an op to fight you, then it's better to be towards the right side and to be holding like this. That way, when they peek, you aren't giving them this left eye advantage where your left shoulder is sticking out right here. There's also the fact that if they peek back here and they peek this right side, they don't see you, then they're going to expect you to be holding on this side. So it's better to be on the boxes side of Sui if you're looking for the op v op fight. It can also be really good to have somebody drop into Sui with you. They can stand over on this side and crouch, and then you land on their head and you're going to be about right here. Once you're peeking this, now you can see if anybody goes lower, and you're also on a more unexpected angle if you get peeked by an opper peeking through mid doors. After you go for the pick on the cross or you go for the op v op fight, then you can throw the util set we showed before of this door smoke and then the short molly, and you can reset, jump across, or get out Sui, whatever you want to do. play the mid round. One thing I forgot to mention but is relevant here is that you can still jump spot right here and see if anybody's playing in this gap right here on short and they're looking for a pick mid. That way you can peek them, and if you have a door smoke, you can come out and just own them because you know they're there, or you can just molly them out like that. Again, similar to the mid doors fight, if you know the CT's econ isn't that good, then there's no point in you giving a scout versus op fight here. You're jumping down with an op, the CTs have a scout, they are hoping to the clouds, to the gods, that you are going to be peeking this with an op. That's the fight that they want so desperately, right? That is such a good fight for them because they can just swing across the doors, wall bang you, or just go for the peek, right? It's not necessary. If you're opping and you know they're on a bad buy, just don't go for this peek. Not worth it. You're giving them an opportunity that they should not have. Okay, so that's how you play Sui. Let's talk about how to play middle and take middle, so then your team can get up and we can threaten mid to B, we can threaten short, right? We have to get mid first. How do we do that? Firstly, we need a door smoke. This is a good time for me to talk about Xbox versus door smoke. You want to default to throwing a door smoke. The Xbox smoke in CS2 is pretty The reason for this is because it blocks visibility from short, so it gives CTs a free pass to aggro mid. I also played a match against Stewie where he just sat in this Xbox smoke, and then we got up cat, well short, and then he just lurched behind us and got killed 2-3 of us. It gives opportunities for CTs to make plays around it. We don't get info short from lower. It's not great. We would much rather just have a door smoke, much cleaner, much simpler, and now we can take mid with that. So if your Sui player isn't throwing a door smoke, you can come to this line right here, crouch and just make sure you're lined up with it, stand up, and then this dot right here, aim at the left side of it, and then left click jump throw. That's a door smoke. It is going to land, boom, plume up. Okay, now we're chilling. We always have to be cautious of a mid push. So when we're up here, we want to be jiggling this, making sure nobody's pushing mid, or we get up here and we're playing like this, making sure nobody's pushing us, and then we're going to get out mid once this door smoke is up. It's a good habit to send at least one flash over mid. We can throw a flash over this building. That way this will blind any CTs who are pushed up here, or we can throw a flash over this building. This one is more likely to blind a short player being aggressive, right? If somebody's opping this gap, then this flash will blind them. If you're worried about CTs being aggressive on short and going for a pick into lower, right? Either they're playing around here and looking at lower, or they're getting boosted and they're playing here. Then from top mid, you look at this splotch above tunnels and just aim above it, shift walk throw, and boom. That's a flash that won't blind your teammates, but will blind any CTs who are standing on short looking towards lower. One thing to be extremely cautious of when you're getting out mid is waiting for the CT to HE the mid door smoke. This is especially true if you know that they're opping. If they had an op in the previous round, pause and wait and listen and just boom, then you hear the HE, you wait a second, and then you go. Right? Don't give them a free pick because the door smoke lands and then you go out and then they nade the smoke and then bang, you're dead. When you're scaling up short, you can throw a molly like this. That's gonna molly the corner. That's pretty good. It's a bit spooky whipping out a piece of util and throwing it along here. If they nade the smoke, you don't have your gun out. If they swing short, you don't have your gun out. You typically want a lower player to be throwing this molly for you, but if you're in a pinch and you want to go fast and take short quick, you throw that molly, you wait, and then boom, you swing, and this is all mollied off for you. As you're scaling along this catwalk here and you're trying to take short, throwing a flash like this isn't the worst thing. This can get somebody off this angle pretty easily, boom, and then they have to re-swing, and now you guys could be out here, you could be out here, you could be out here, right? It's not a flashy throw to get a kill with, it's a flashy throw to force them off the angle, so then boom, when they re-swing, your positioning is spookier for them because you could be out taking space this way and they don't get to just sit on the angle anymore. So that's how you take middle. The middle take often relies on your lower players because your lower players have to go clear lower and make sure nobody is pushing or being aggressive on short. So let's talk about how to play lower. Lower tunnels is a very important part of the map at the beginning of the round. This is where CTs will often go for aggressive plays and maybe fight you. This is the player, if you go lower, where you're going to be getting up short, or maybe you're dueling mid. You're going to see a good amount of action when you play lower. The first thing you need to think about is the fact that CTs will always beat your timing to stairs. So when you come out tunnels and you want to throw a piece of util, by the end of you throwing that piece of util, a CT could be right here. If you want to go fast, you have to like bank on the fact that the CTs aren't pushing you lower fast, or else you're likely just going to lose this. Instead, if you want to be a bit more cautious, you can swing over to the left and hold it like this and then scale along this left wall. That way, if the CT wants to peek you, they have to swing playing all the way out here, and now they're exposed to the rest of tunnels, which makes you very tradable. Your approach or pace to lower needs to be highly adaptable to how the CTs have been playing and what their economy is. If the CTs are on a low buy, right, you're expecting maybe 5.7s or SMGs, then running into lower no fears, not a great idea, right? You might just give them an AK for free. When they're on a full buy, then it's easier to play around with your pace. You can often go faster because you're not expecting them to be as aggressive as they would be on a low buy. But you also do want to change up the pace on full buys, where sometimes you're taking it slow, sometimes you're taking it fast. You don't want to do it the exact same way every time. So when you are taking it slow, you can throw a molly like this, just a little W tap, and this is going to molly off the boxes along with this corner and this close angle. It won't reach here, so you will have to clear that. After you throw that molly, you can throw flashes against this wall and they bounce and land right there, or you can left and right click one right here, and that's going to land deeper and catch anybody who's playing on this back wall here. If you don't have pace, then you might as well meticulously clear these angles. Clear close, clear this one, clear short. If you're worried about them boosting, right, and AWP being up here, then you can throw a flash. You just stand against the back here, aim around this splotch, left click throw. That's going to bounce, and then it's going to pop about right here. So any AWPer sitting up here, they won't even see this flash until they're blind. Boom, and then they get off the angle, and that gives you space. One very important thing to take into account when you're taking lower is, do you have a teammate with you or not? If you have a teammate with you and they're just holding upper, then you probably want to be more meticulous with how you take lower if you're fully alone. But if you have a teammate with you, then you could probably forego some util and be a bit more aggressive in how you take lower because you're tradable by your teammate. Now, if you're fully alone, then you're really at risk of getting pinched by somebody pushing upper and somebody pushing lower. So on these kind of rounds where it's like the CTs have a bad buy, you're fully alone, you have an AK, often it can be better to just play outside of tunnels and hold for a push, see if the CTs are going to be aggressive, and you're going to get some pretty free kills of CTs just pushing into lower and thinking it's clear, and then they just run by you and boom, free kill. You can also get boosted around here. This allows you to peek short from bang right here, and that way if they're being aggressive short, this is a nice little angle for you to get a pick. Once you're down here in lower, you've kind of completed your mission of clearing lower and making sure that we have this map space. Now it's your job to support the short take. Once you're in this section, get your molly out and throw a molly here. It's the easiest, simplest way to help your short players take short. When you throw a molly there, it prevents anybody from playing on this corner, and it allows your short players to get up and throw this molly, which I'll show again in a bit when we talk about taking short. But it gives your teammates space to get up short and not worry about having to get swung on by a CT. Once you're up here lower, there's a lot of util you can throw from this area right here. Lined up against this wall right here, you can re-smoke mid doors either by aiming at the bottom right of this little window up here and left and right click throwing, right? That's both keys at the same time. Boom, that's going to plume down and be a door smoke. Or if you want something that's a little faster, you can stand right here, aim at the bottom of this little square cutout, and just left click throw. And that's also a nice little door smoke that lets you get up Xbox and get into short. From here, you can also throw a molly close doors if you suspect that somebody's playing back here. If you stand in this exact same spot and aim at the left or at the right edge of this tip of the building, and then boom, left and right click throw again, this is going to molly this cubby and also provide you a little gap for you to sneak out mid behind. You can combine that with a lurk smoke. So you can throw that molly and throw a smoke like this. You just aim at the edge of this dark mark right here and left click throw. This is the mid lurk smoke. It applies a ton of pressure to CTs. If I'm a CT and I'm holding mid here, now I am spooked. I have no clue what's going on, and if the T's get out, they can swing me from here, right? Now there's this giant orb of who knows where this T's can push me from. So spooky. Often this applies a lot of pressure, which forces CTs to play 2 into middle, or just makes the CT run over towards B because they don't want to mess with it. You can also throw a flash aiming in between the window and this bit, left and right click throw, and this is going to pop just right past the door. So anybody holding right here is going to get full blinded by this. And with that, let's transition into talking about how to take short, because from this spot you can also throw some really helpful short util. Before I mentioned this molly, just throwing it at the corner, that way you flush any CTs out from holding this angle right here or just being on an off angle out this way. This allows your team to scale up short and not worry about this angle anymore and clear short. If you're this player, you get up short, while this molly is still up, you can line up a molly like this. You aim at the bottom of this window right here, and you're going to run forward until you hit the tarp, and then left click jump throw. This molly is going to land here and flush out anybody who's playing on the corner right here. So with this molly and that molly, boom, there's very little space for the CTs to play. They could be on an off angle here, or maybe tucked in here. That's kind of it, or against the wall, or deeper on short. There's just not a lot of space on short, right? Your lower player, or you if you're playing lower, this hypothetical is getting confusing. Let's pretend that you're both. You can stand right here, aim at the corner of this building, and a left click jump through. You do a swaggy little bounce off the wall, and this is a perfect pop flash to blind anybody who's playing up here on short. So with those two mollies, one right here, and then one at the corner, and then one flash to swing this angle, boom, that's the recipe for an easy short take. Also, if you're not feeling confident about this molly, you can walk out this way and then aim at the tip of this balcony right here, the left tip, and then just left click throw. And then this molly is going to do essentially the same thing and molly off this corner, so the CTs have to flee. Once you've taken short and you want to execute short and finish A, then you can throw this beautiful smoke wall where you crouch right here and you line yourself up with this dot. Once you've lined up with that dot, you're going to look towards this window, and there's a vague little tan spot right here. You're just going to left click at that while you're crouched. I'll show it again. This little lighter spot right here. And then stand up and aim at the tip of this pointy bit. And then left and right click throw that smoke. This is going to be the short smoke wall, which boom, it smokes off CT, which allows for your entry to just run out CT and clear this way. And they have this smoke supporting them here. Obviously that fades, but they can push this way. Your teammates have these smokes for cover, so they can get up all the way this way until they have to worry about game changer right there. And that's how you do it. That's a great way to execute short. In terms of Molotovs and flashbangs when you're executing, you can throw a sight molly safely from behind the corner. Boom, there you go. However, you can't really throw a ramp molly safely without peeking everything, and you can't throw a goose molly safely without peeking goose. So if you want to molly ramp or molly goose, have a smoke up right here, and then you can just throw your mollies from behind that smoke, and then bang, now you have ramp mollied and you're throwing it safe and you won't die. In terms of flashbangs, if you sit down and you throw these smokes, then you can flash just behind the roof like this. That way, when your team is scaling up this way, these kind of flashes won't blind your teammates, but will blind anybody playing towards site or anybody playing towards ramp. Also, throwing these flashes, just left and right click, aiming into CT, are really good as well, because anybody playing game helper right here, especially an opper, when you throw these flashes, they're scoped in, boom, now they're blind. Very nice. Now that left and right click one is pretty on the fly. You can throw an actual lineup for this by sitting against this corner and aiming at the bottom of this tree, and then that's going to pop right there at the corner. And it's going to pop below the wall so it doesn't blind your teammates, but it will blind a CT sitting on this corner. It's kind of rare in Pugs where you actually get to like properly execute short. Typically you're just working off of picks and then flooding where you get the pick, but if you get the chance to like actually execute short, that's some really nice util for you to throw. Let's talk about lurking upper tunnels. Now, there's not a lot to talk about here. For the most part, you're just making sure nobody's pushing and you're helping your lower player go take lower, and then you're coming back and again making sure nobody's pushing. But there are ways where you can go for some picks or just apply some pressure. One play you can make to go for a pick is instantly crossing to this left side and holding this angle. What will happen a lot is if you're expecting the CT to play anti-rush, maybe they molly close and then they swing close like this, and they're looking here and they're not necessarily completely ready for you to just be standing here on this angle. They're just swinging, looking for the rush. So you stand here, boom, you own them. That could be an easy pick for you. Outside of that pick, walking out B, really difficult. Really, really hard to get picks on B. You can look for a pick if they're playing close, right? If they throw a smoke into tons and you're really feeling like they're playing close, then as the smoke is fading, you can molly left side. If they're playing in that close corner, then this molly is going to flush them out, and that could be a pick for you. If you think that they're playing back plat as the smoke is fading, you can molly plat, boom, they're flushed out, and then you can duel. However, that's like kind of a gutsy call. I think they're going to be there, so I'm going to molly it as the smoke is fading. For the most part, the way you're going to pressure B is with a lurk smoke. So you can stand on the left edge of this pillar right here and just aim at this splotch right here and left click throw. This is the B lurk smoke. It's going to land out in this direction, and it gives you a little route on the left side and it also provides you cover to jump up on top of this right here. So when your team is splitting B and you find yourself in upper tunnels and you don't necessarily just want to walk out alone, then that's when you want to throw this B lurk smoke. And after you throw that smoke, you can shift walk a flash into it too, and that can be quite good because then the CTs don't see the flash because it pops in the smoke. The smoke also allows you to throw mollies behind it somewhat safely, right? You can molly plat, you can molly backside, you can do whatever you want behind it. It's just a really good smoke for you to be using. One great thing about this smoke too is that if you're throwing it a lot, then what you can do is have your team come B, you throw it, and instead of, you know, just you lurking behind it or throwing a piece of util or just using it to pressure, now you guys are like 4 or 5 man walking behind it and going to go contact B. That can be, you know, a surprising play and can give you the round for free. How to go mid to B and split B. Everybody should know the CT smoke. You're going to crouch in this corner of Xbox and you're going to look at this plank where the nails are. You're going to go to the right where it meets the shadowy and the bright side, left click jump throw while you're crouched. This smoke is going to land on the lip, and that way it's going to cover the upper bit, so when you're scaling towards window, you're not exposed to anything in CT. You still do have to worry about somebody standing here or somebody boosted behind this box. You can follow that smoke up by standing and then aiming at the corner of Xbox right here and left click throwing a flash. Boom, that's a nice little pop flash that's going to land right indoors. Once you're out mid, if nobody's fighting you close, you have to be really worried about somebody holding window, of course. So you can flash over this building if you want like that. It's not a great flash, that's not going to blind them for very long. I would say the best way to deal with this is just to double swing it and try to trade. As you scale towards B, of course, you have to be worried about somebody swinging window or somebody swinging through doors. So typically when you scale towards B, you want to be either against this wall so you can hold window and then clear this, or you want to be up against this wall so you can hold door and then clear window. That way you're not out in the middle and open to both of them and available to die from either of them. If you're the very last player out, it can be totally worth you just lurking mid. Now, this isn't a free pass to bait, but if the rest of your team is scaling towards B successfully, then you being here in mid and just tucking in this corner and waiting for good timing to swing somebody who's rotating or catch somebody who's coming through doors from short, that can just be the game-ending play. Something to keep in mind, like how we talked in the map theory section, is that if you want to go mid to B, it is really, really important that you take short first, or at least you pressure the CTs off of short. That way, you're not always running into 2 mid players holding you mid to B. And if you're confident in that pressure that, hey, we bullied them and they're scared of A right now, you can just walk out mid and contact this, because it's likely that this mid player went over towards B to double B because they don't want to be fully alone mid. So when you walk out mid, you can come over here into this corner, crouch and aim at the tip of this shadow and just left click your smoke. This smoke is really nice because it plumes up again. There's a little visibility at the beginning, but once you cross, you're totally chilling. That way you don't have to give the CTs the warning that you're going mid to B so early because you're throwing it from here, it bounces and you have to wait for it to land. Instead, your team scales up, we're contacting out, you throw the smoke, and then our timing is significantly better and we're not giving any warning to the rotate player that, hey, we're going mid to B right now. When you're playing T-side on Dust 2, at some point in the half, you're probably going to rush B, so it's important to know how to rush B properly to give yourself the best chance at winning that round. So I'm going to go spawn by spawn and tell you what you should do based on the spawn you have. If you have the very best spawn for B, you are entering, right? Similar with every other rush ever. However, there is one piece of util you can use that is really good. When you run into tunnels, hold this back wall, like run along this back wall, and you're going to aim above the right side of the sign up here. So you're going to run along the back wall, hold W, aim above the sign. This flash is so good because it counters a CT playing anti-rush. What we're really scared of when we rush B is a CT swinging here, right? They molly, and then they just sit in front of the smoke and spam us down. Their timing is always going to beat us. So this flash is going to bounce, and then boom, pop in their face if they try to go for this play. After you throw that flash, your job is literally to just get out B. The second player should be smoking the molly for you, and you're entering out. That brings us to the second player, who, guess what, is smoking the molly, and then you might have time also to throw a flash like that and get out and follow your entry wherever they go and try to trade them. The third player in line should be focusing on flashbangs. They should throw 1, throw 2, and then get out and hard clear car, or jump up this way and clear like this, right? see what's going on. The fourth player is kind of doing the same as the third player. They can throw this flash, get out, and then follow the third player where they go, whether it's a double swing towards car, or maybe the third player goes out towards car, the fourth player jumps up here, right? What's really important is that the first two stick together and entry out and trade each other. The very worst spawn is typically in charge of throwing a B door smoke. This could be the fourth or the third player if either of them know the B door smoke. As long as somebody knows it, then they should throw it. However, it's really nice if the fifth player does it, because then they don't have to screw up their timing at all, right? So this player can come out here. They're going to run along this metal grate and then aim at this splotch in the building right here, just towards the bottom of this like dome thing right here. Run over the grate, aim at that splotch, and then left click jump throw before you hit this wall. This smoke is going to bounce and then land over here and block off doors from CTs so they can't see anything as you guys are running out tunnels. Something to note is that people often are overly concerned about getting a smoke down into window, where it's not that important, because if you're rushing B, you're banking on the fact that they're not going to be playing 2B anyways. So the idea is that they're playing 1B, right? They're probably in sight or they're playing anti-rush. We get out, this mid player starts rotating, and then we just molly window from behind the big box. Or if we have the B door smoke down, then we can molly window from behind car. One tip for your post plants on B is that if you look at this corner, if you run throw or even just like shift walk throw your smoke into that corner, this is a really nice resmoke for doors. So instead of having to awkwardly throw one right here that's going to plume out a ton and give CTs lurk opportunities, you can just throw it into that corner. And this is true also for back here at plat. You can throw it in that corner. I somehow hit the wall, throw it a little higher, boom, boom, and it's going to land right outside doors and be really nice resmoke for door. So that's T side. Of course, there's more I can talk about, but I've already talked enough. Let's talk about the must-know T-side utility. 4 ways to smoke mid-doors, because smoking mid-doors is very important. First way from spawn, you're going to line up with this line, stand up, aim at the left side of the splotch, and then left-click jump throw. Second way from Sui, you're going to get into this corner, aim above this splotch, and left-click throw. Third way, you'll see pros throw this one a ton. You get into the corner with the tire right here. You aim at this corner just to the left of it, and then you move over into this corner and you left click jump throw. This one is very popular because it can't be body blocked, right? It lands on the top of the door, boom, it spreads down. Fourth way is from outside long. You sit in this corner, you crouch and you aim at the bottom left of this window, and then you left click jump throw. There you go. Now there are no excuses to not throw a mid doors smoke. If you really want to throw an Xbox smoke, which I would recommend not throwing for the most part, sometimes it's okay, but for the most part you want to throw a mid door smoke, you can get into this corner, aim at this shadowy line up to the point of this antenna right here, and then just left click jump through. This is going to fly down, bounce on middle, and then bounce on Xbox. Boom, there we go. Long util. My favorite way to smoke corner on long is to get lined up with this corner, aim at the tip of this pipe, and left click jump throw. This is a nice and quick long corner smoke that can help your teammates get out long. Bang, there it is. When you want to flash for your teammates to get out long, sit on this corner, aim in between the palm tree and long doors along the top of this wall, and left click throw just in the middle of the two. And you want to throw that first flash right as the first player enters these doors. That way the timing is good. Once you throw those, if you have more, you can run through them over the left side of the building like this. You can shift walk jump through them too. These are just for CTs who are crossing this way, and they pop over here and they'll blind CTs who are crossing towards pit. Now, I didn't talk about how to pop long in the main part of the video. However, here's some util that will help you do that. If you stand just around this curb, you crouch and you aim at this notch, and then you hold W while you're crouch walking, bang. This flash is going to pop through doors and blind anybody who's playing close like this. Along with that, if you stand in this corner, aim below the palm tree and then about in between where the sign is in the palm tree right here, and then just left click jump throw. This is a nice little god flash that's going to blind anybody playing in this corner, or playing in pit, or playing at this corner as well. Let's go over some long util. So you can throw a cross smoke from this corner right here, aiming at the bottom of this splotch, this little line in the top of it, and then you just left click jump through that. You can also throw a cross smoke from this side of the blue bin. Imagine there's a box right here, aim in the middle of it and just left click throw. Both of these are going to land right in the middle and cover the entire cross for you. From this barrel, you can throw a short smoke by aiming at the corner of this building all the way up to the wire and then left click throwing. You can also throw a molly for car by jumping on top of the barrel, sitting in this corner, and left click jump throwing at that little panel there. Here's the short smoke, boom. and then here's the car molly. It gets this corner. Car is too big of a position to molly out completely with just one molly, so people still can be tucked behind it right here. To get a teammate into pit, you just want to chuck a flash over sight. That way they can bang and then they can cross into pit. Once your team is scaling up long, you want to throw flashes behind them over this building so that anybody playing back here towards Gandalf or on site or behind these are going to get blinded by these flashes. As you're scaling up, you can throw a molly against this wall, and that's going to land behind default and molly out that position. You can also crouch here, and with a cross smoke up, you can aim at this corner of the building and left click throw, and this is going to be a Gandalf molly and flush anybody out from there. When you're taking middle, you want to throw flashes over this building if you think that they could be pushed. Once you're up here, if you want to help your lower players peek short, you can aim above this way and just do a little walk throw. Boom, that flash is going to pop above tunnels and blind anybody sitting here on short. From Sui, you can molly bottom mid by just aiming in that direction and throwing your molly. Not really a lineup, but good to know. You can molly short by standing back here and then aiming just to the left of this wooden bit and run throwing your molly, letting go right before you hit the boxes. And then you can follow it up with flashes by aiming at this line and run jump throwing those flashes. These are going to land deep and blind anybody who's playing this corner on short. When you want to rush B, there are two good ways to throw a really fast door smoke. Number one, you're going to run out here. You're going to run along this metal sheet, and you're going to aim around the splotch right here. Track it, and then left click jump throw. This is going to bounce against this wall and then land just outside of doors and smoke doors off for your team getting out B. The other kind of slower way, but maybe more consistent, is getting to the right side of this taxi, aiming at the bottom of this square right here, going out this way. Once you're in line with that kind of, I think it's an AC, I don't know, sign, looks like. You're going to run, and then you're going to left click jump throw when you hit the building. This is going to do the same thing, bounce, and then land outside of doors very nicely. When you're entering on a B rush, you can run against this left wall, aim above the right side of that sign, and throw a flash that's going to bounce, and then pop right here, blinding any CT who's swinging close tunnels to play anti-rush. As you're getting out B, throwing flashes into this cubby back here will blind anybody who's playing towards site right here, back here, or playing towards window like this. These will blind the window player as well. From upper tunnels, if you get lined up with this pillar right here and then aim at this big splotch and left click throw, that's your B lurk smoke. You can follow that up with a flashbang into the smoke like that. That way you have cover for getting out of tunnels. You can throw a B door smoke from inside of tunnels by lining up against the left side of this pillar, and then you're going to aim up in this gap. There's this kind of wooden mark right here under the big splotch. You're just going to go to the right until you get into the blue and then left click throw. This one is going to land outside of doors, so it isn't super lurky, right? It doesn't plume into B. Boom, there we go. And that looks great from the B side. If you're worried about somebody holding you short or doing the boost on short and holding lower, you can just stand here at the entry to lower and aim at this spot right here, left click throw, boom, boom, boom. This flash is going to pop right here and blind anybody who's holding you short. You can throw a bunch of really good utility from this spot right here in lower tunnels. You just get lined up with the wall. The first one is a lurk smoke in mid. You aim at the right side of this dark little gash in the building and you just left click throw. This one is going to land here and apply a lot of pressures to CTs and deny a lot of info. Boom. The second one is a molly into that cubby on the right side. You're going to stand same spot, aim at the tip of this building, right edge right here, and left and right click throw your molly. This one is going to land in the cubby and give you a little bit of space here indoors to walk out. There are also two ways to re-smoke doors from this spot. You can aim at the bottom left of this cube right here and just left click throw your smoke. That's going to be a nice little resmoke for doors. You can also aim at the bottom right of this square up here and left and right click your smoke. This one is going to land on top and plume down. So then boom, doors is smoked. Now, if you get around to this side of the wall and then aim at this corner of this building and the left click jump throw, this is a perfect pop flash to get your teammates up short, and it'll blind anybody playing this angle right here. Once you're up short, you can molly that corner by aiming at the bottom of this window in the middle of it, and then run and jump throwing with a left click when you hit this tarp. Boom, that's going to be a molly for the corner. You can also throw the same molly by sitting on the back wall and aiming at the left corner of this balcony, and that's going to molly the same spot and flush anybody out of this corner. Burn, 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 they gotta leave. Once you're up short, there's a bunch of good util to know in terms of taking A. If you crouch here and line up with the splotch, and then while you're crouched, aim at this lighter bit on the left side of the window and left click throw, that is your short lurk smoke. Stand up up, aim at the tip of this pointy bit, and left and right click throw. That's going to be your avant-garde smoke, which is going to land right here. And boom, now you have a nice smoke wall for CT and for getting up short. When you're flashing up short, you can either aim towards the bottom of this balcony and left click jump throw. These are just going to go over the building and pop up here and blind a lot of spots. You can also throw flashes behind your team like this that are going to blind anybody ramp who's peeking your team as they scale this way. The other type of flash you can throw is one that drops into CT. You can stand here in this corner and aim at the bottom of this palm tree, left click throw. That's going to pop there. It won't blind your teammates as they scale this way, but it will blind an opper who's sitting here holding an angle like this. Two ways to smoke mid to B, one from short. If you line up with this brick bit right here and then aim at the bottom of the furthest left vertical piece, left click jump throw, this is going to be a nice CT smoke that lands on this bit here and plumes up fully. The other way you throw this is from this corner at Xbox. You crouch, look for this plank that has two nails, and then you're going to go over to where the bright side meets the dark side, and then left click jump throw while you're crouched. And this is going to do the same thing, land on the ledge, and then plume all the way up. You can follow that smoke up with just a flash at this corner of Xbox while you're standing. Boom, and now you have an entry flash and a smoke into CT. Now let's talk about some must-know CT side util, and we'll start with some long util. When you come out long, obviously you have your doors molly. You don't need to line up for that. When you want to molly blue, you want to make sure that you don't aim at this slanted portion of the wall. You aim to the right of it against this wall. That way it's going to bounce and land nicely into blue, and then you can do the same thing with HEs against that wall. Boom, and that's going to just nuke anybody who's crossing into blue. When you want to flash for yourself towards long, you can get stuck in this corner, aim at the bottom right of the sign, and left click throw. This is a nice little pot flash for you to throw. Alternatively, you can back up a little bit and just left click throw flashes over the wall and then swing with that. An incredibly powerful piece of util is a long doors smoke. If you come out of spawn, get tucked in this corner, and then aim at the bottom of this electrical bit to the roof of this balcony or whatever, I don't know what you would call this, part of the building that sticks out of the building. This is going to smoke long doors for you without having to peek long doors. You can also come into this corner and aim at the bottom of this splotch here. It's a little hard to see, but you're going to just left click throw your smoke right there. This one lands a tad bit earlier than the first one I showed, so if getting it down as fast as possible is a priority, then you can throw that. Otherwise, if you want to throw a long doors smoke and then go up towards short, then this one is the one to be throwing. If the T's have taken long and you want to delay their A push, you can stand against this edge of the wall right here and then aim at the bottom of this satellite right here and just left click throw. This smoke is going to spread across long, boom, and it's going to spread and deny info for the T's on if somebody could be car or CT or just behind the smoke. You can also pop through the smoke with a flash. If your teammate is back here, they can flash like this past the smoke, bang, you push, and then you clean up T's who are just chilling behind the smoke. If you're playing ramp and the T's are pushing through short, if you stand right here, aim at the S and then above it to the line of this crate at a left click throw, this flash boom pops right here. It doesn't blind you, and it's going to blind all the T's who are up here pushing you. If you want to pop through the CT smoke, then this wall creates a really easy wall to bank a flash off of and then boom, swing through it. T's of course will be able to hear the bounce, but bang, it's a nice little pop flash, could get you some kills. If you want to re-clear short in the mid round, then two sets you can throw. One from here, you just aim up here in this section, left click run throw, and then you can left click throw flash just to the left of the building. Boom, that way you molly the cubby out, and then you have a pop flash that blinds any T sitting right here. You can do the exact same thing from this spot right here. You're just going to aim at the bottom left of this window, left click run throw, and then left and right click aim at the left side of the building, over, left and right click throw your flash, boom. Then you have the same thing, a molly into cubby, and a little pop flash for short. When you're throwing util into mid, you typically want to aim at this kind of pillar right here. You can throw mollies like that, you can throw HEs like that. So when you're crossing over towards B and you don't want to get spotted, you can left click an HE there and it'll cover your cross for you. Now the cool thing is, if you run jump throw this util instead of just left clicking it, bang, now it's going to land on top of short. To get aggressive mid, you can throw a suey smoke like this. You just scale out past this box, aim under this big knob just about here, and W jump throw. This smoke is going to land in suey, and then you can follow that up with a molly towards top mid just like this. No lineup needed, you just kind of huck it. You can also throw an HE just like that as well, and that will do a lot of damage if the T's are swinging mid early. Honestly, there's not a lot of like must know utility on CT side. Most of the util is really straightforward on CT. It's just about when you're throwing it and why you're throwing it is the most important important part. Making sure that your mollies are well timed, so when you actually think that they could be pushing, and then also using your flashes to swing off of, right? If I'm here in mid and they're pushing me mid, I can just throw a flash behind me and swing with that. Dust is such a big open map with so much space, and especially a lot of airspace. There's not much, there aren't very many ceilings, right? Aside from in tunnels. So it's a great map for just popping flashes behind you and swinging in front of them and forcing your opponent into that do I turn or do I not turn type situation. Goober, there you go. That was a lot. Thank you for watching it. If you made it all the way to the end, you are insane. Good job. Thank you. Shout out to my channel members. They're scrolling over here on the side. They allow me to be a goober on the internet, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much. Go watch my other videos and please like this one and subscribe to me. If you watch the whole thing, why wouldn't you, right? All right. Have a good day. Peace out.